everything of themselves. I know how hard it is. I put myself through college. I worked 3 jobs in college just to make ends meet. I have been so poor in my life before that I couldn't even afford an egg to put in my ramen noodles. I couldn't afford the milk and the butter. So I made mac and cheese with just water. Okay, and I know that there's some of my listeners out there that y'all know exactly what I'm talking about here. Y'all lived on a lot of cans of tuna fish, just like I did. We ate a lot of beans and rice, growing up. So when we hear of somebody who's in college and that situation has managed to save for himself $20,000 and for, Greg, big business Parker, who spends $20,000 a month on his Mercedes lease, his Lamborghini lease, it's not even a car note, then it makes me so mad. And I'm sure that it does y'all too. Y'all know exactly what I'm saying. So let's go over some of the statistics on who gets scammed in real estate fraud schemes like this, because these Ponzi schemes are very prevalent. I see them in my practice all the time. And it's one of the things that I absolutely look out for. And if I feel like you're shady, you're fishy, I don't like you, I'm going to ask you kindly to pay my invoice and go close with another title company, because I don't want to work with you anymore. I don't like you. Okay. So here we go. The scale of the damage. There have been over 100 investors across multiple states in Canada affected just by this one. There were actually 7 federal RICOs that were filed against them, and also a criminal indictment filed by the FBI. So thank you so much for doing your job, DOJ. We appreciate you. And 44 investors who still owed property and money. There's over $1 million that is still unpaid by one investor. And many of them received only a fraction of that money back. The targets are often Black Americans. And also, they will use really familiar. So, they're very manipulative. They like to play on your emotions. They want to make sure you feel like you're a part on the inside. You're with them. And so they'll use things like, brother, hey, baby. That's one of my favorites. Whenever I had somebody call me at the office, hey, honey. Hey, girl. Hey, baby. Yeah, babe. I'm not your babe. I don't know you like that. But they're going to pretend like you have this super close bond. And, you guys have this deep friendship. So you wouldn't do anything to stop them, right? Like due diligence. You wouldn't review any actual paperwork or hold up their closing in any way, right? Because, they need that money, sis. It's one of the huge red flags for me as well. And in many cases, these investors are so desperate to make this money that they're willing to run up credit card debt. They're willing to borrow from their 401k and their Roth IRAs. And the thing is that these people always control every single aspect of every project. So for instance, they're actually going to use their own construction company. That's a stupid name too. That's the other thing. In this case, the Parkers named their construction company Maybach. Okay. Because I guess it just conveys luxury, a luxury construction company. And they usually own the financing company as well. I mean, this is what's wild. They usually also like to use their preferred title companies, and they won't let any deals close with anybody who's not their preferred, because what happens is they end up running across somebody like me who's going to ruin the whole thing because I'm going to do due diligence. And I'm so sorry, guys, but yes, I will. What happens is they'll actually end up filing for bankruptcy. So in this particular situation, what they did is the lending company that was also owned by Nikki, Danielle Parker, the wife. So he had construction company, she had the lending company, and then they were setting up lending from themselves. It was such a messed up situation that actually the lending company actually filed for bankruptcy first. And what that does is it actually stops civil lawsuits at that time, because when you file for bankruptcy, now everybody goes, well, there's no reason to even try to sue them to get your money back because they filed for bankruptcy, you guys. They got nothing. And I know because in my real estate practice, I can tell you for sure, I have absolutely told people there ain't no reason to spend money trying to go after that deal, honey. I mean, they don't have any money. If they did, they would have done paid it to you. I mean, they have filed for bankruptcy. What are you going to do? You're going to spend all this money to go through a lawsuit and then get pennies on the dollar, maybe, in a bankruptcy case? I mean, it's just let it go. I mean, it's terrible, but that's what happens. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, no one ever calls federal authorities. But I'm going to tell you, I hope my listening audience really does. The thing is that somebody had called the FBI on the Parkers. Somebody tipped them off. Well, I don't know who that person was, but thank goodness to that person that they actually did, because kudos to you for turning this into the FBI. Let me tell you something. Something comes across my desk like that, it is absolutely going to go to the FBI for sure. Now, I wouldn't report anybody unless I knew for a fact and had very strong evidence. I would never call and just like make false claims against anybody or like stir up an investigation. I would never do that. But if I knew for 100% for sure, and I had the documentation to back it up, yeah, I will call on wire fraud all day long. I have called on wire fraud before, and I will do it again. So here's the deal, you guys. So there are 3 charges each against Nikki and her husband, Big Business. They have been charged with committing wire fraud a conspiracy to commit wire fraud and wire fraud, which is a federal crime. DOJ press release disclosed that the scam operated a Ponzi, and Danielle was released on bail, but Gregory has been detained pending a hearing. Okay? Because Greg Big Business and Nikki, who was just like driving Lamborghinis and flying around in private jets, they actually don't even have the money to pay for an attorney to defend themselves. They are both represented by public defenders. And I think that's right. I think that they should have lost everything, but I think it's terrible that the people who invested the money with them also lost money. That is terrible. If you or anybody that you know invested money, or you have any information regarding this case, shoot an email to parkerinvestortips@fbi.com. Subject line, Parker Investor. That is parkerinvestortips@fbi.gov, and the subject line should be Parker Investor. Now, every single step in this scheme was absolutely recognizable. Every mechanism has a name, and that means that every single thing that they did was completely avoidable. And I'm going to teach you how to do it when we come back from the break. You're listening to The Real Deal on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm your host, Kim Hollingshead.